Any news on the 28th Amendment?
Yeah, the paperwork has been signed, and the Texas privacy policy bill has been abolished. Please alert the National Guard as I expect backsplash from the P Party.
Noted.
And the raid this morning?
Operation Orange was a success. The former president was successfully apprehended. He's currently being processed as a terrorist and then deported.
Where?
Mexico. We plan to just toss him over the wall.
His misogyny opened a lot of wounds across America. This man didn't care about consent. He said he would grab her by the...
Mr. President.
I'm just saying, we need to set an example of what is acceptable when talking about consent, not only for women, but for everyone. I've had the administration put together a public service announcement to address that issue. Check it out.
Oh, no thank you.
What are you talking about? You wanted tea yesterday.
Oh, I guess that's true. Wait a second. Consent is on a case-by-case basis. Consent one day does not magically mean consent every day forever. You should ask for consent for each new experience you have with someone. Let's try that again.
Hey, sweetheart, would you like some tea?
No thanks.
Want to snuggle?
Trigger warning. This next segment will include stories from those affected by sexual violence. In the United States alone, over 680,000 women are raped each year. What we fail to realize is the damage left is much deeper than just the violent act itself. The common way we've dealt with this issue as a society is to silence the victim as their stories make those who hear it uncomfortable. That will not be happening today. Their voices will be heard.
It's the only crime I've seen where if you refer to yourself as a victim, people get all weird and are like, well, you shouldn't think about it that way. That's making yourself a victim. It's like you don't tell that to somebody who is mugged at gunpoint or beaten up.
Yeah.
But for some reason with this crime, people get really upset if we use that term.
We are seeing the escalation of rape culture, a predatory mindset in many respects, but I'll particularly address towards women. I think from the very beginning, listening to Trump and listening, how was it possible that a nation of people felt okay with electing a self-confessed sexual assaulter?
Where he would shove me away when I told him to stop, and he just basically told me to just suck it up because I'm a big girl, basically.
People don't care about women being raped as much, but it's also because those women aren't reporting it because they know that they're going to get bullied, to suicide.
What do? Yeah, how does anybody believe you? Do you even, did that even happen? Did you make that up in your mind? I don't know.
wanted to have sex because I feared him. And then I saw how upset he would get if I didn't want to have sex with him.
The last administration did a terrible job at keeping the public together. Instead of further dividing ourselves, we should focus on what makes our diversity our strength. I promised the American people that gender diversity and representation would be a main focus of mine before I became president.
You did, Mr. President.
And you know, I used to be a woman, so who would know better about gender issues than me, since I've experienced both sides of the coin?
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't know? Does it upset you that I'm transgender?
I'm upset you have a better beard than I do.
I can't help that I'm prime cut beef, bro.
You gotta be kidding me.
Putin is gonna be so mad, but that's besides the point. We also need to focus on representation across cultural and ethnic groups. Today, we celebrate Asian Americans, as they have made huge contributions to this country. We have unfairly generalized them into one group when they are actually represented by 48 countries. This short doc will give us a look into how our Asian Americans feel they are viewed and represented. Maybe then we can start a change as to how we view all people.
That people can come and cultures can meet and get together and share cultures and celebrate cultures. And we come together, you know, it's so auspicious, winter time. It's traditional to come winter time. Families get together to get align themselves with the cosmos, with the time, with the space, to be in alignment with each other. And we have this great, wonderful family here.
I moved to the United States when I was 10. That's actually the first time that I had heard about Asian as a category. I don't particularly like it. You know, I know that it exists. Not everyone who's Asian is good at math or is, you know, smart in the way, you know, that people think they are. Nor are all Asians, you know, successful, and I think that that's really the most harmful stereotype that there is. Non-Asian people will use that as an excuse. Like, we don't need to think about equity and diversity, especially, you know, here at Evergreen. Values that I think is directly connected to my culture is that I really value my family.
I feel like it's very important, but it's also very important to know that there are other groups out there that are going through the same thing. I'm at 26 years old right now, and I'm finding myself wanting to be around more Vietnamese people because that is the culture that brought me up, and I feel like when I came here, I left it.
I would say that stereotypes really hurt people. My mind still itches the fact that someone says to me, my mom, go back to China. Well, we're not from China, we're from South Korea by blood. I mean, in the assumption of everybody from China, that's downright insulting. I'm proud of my Korean heritage, even if America is being insensitive about any Asian country in general.
Me, myself, is a Chinese, and I think it's important, while other people are thinking of me as a certain group, and I think it's quite important to reflect my own nationality and culture. So Chinese culture, it has a really long history, and it's been changing. It's definitely changing in modern times, and different people, people from different areas have different culture. I would say in general, it's kind of hard to define my culture. A lot of young Chinese now, as what I represent, is our progressive young adults who want to be more international and do something for the world.
Diversity is one of America's greatest strengths. A melting pot of people, cultures, and ideas coming together to find the best solutions for better quality of life. With that being said, it is unfortunate that we don't do a great job at respecting each other's differences. To add some light on this subject, I'd like to introduce the Puppet and Friends.
Welcome to the Pronoun Puppet Show. There are many different pronouns out there in the world, and if you aren't sure which pronoun someone uses, use their name or ask.
Someone may identify as they, he, she, or something else entirely.
Regardless of whether you're friends or not, it is important to pay attention as a form of respect.
In order to make everyone feel comfortable and understood, we need to use their chosen pronouns.
When you mispronounce someone, acknowledge and correct your mistake and continue the conversation. They,
She, he,
they,
she, he,
they,
she, he,
they,
she, he,
they,
she,
they.
Man, up in the air. And I run around this town and act like I don't care. So when you see me flying by the planet's moon, you don't need to explain if everything's changed, just know I'm just like you.
Hello everyone, I'm Emery Krantz. I attend Evergreen State College, trying to be a filmmaker, and I'm non-binary. So my pronouns are they, them. I'm here with Cash Court, who is a trans veteran. You're also an activist in the LGBTQIA+ community, because there's freaking revolution happening right now. And you're getting a second degree, right, in cinematic and scientific journalism.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, perfect. Can I ask you what pronouns you prefer?
Absolutely, thank you. I go by he, him pronouns.
Perfect. All right, it's good to have you here. I really appreciate it. So let's get into it.
Yes.
Right. Last Wednesday, Trump's administration revoked the Title IX. Do you want to explain maybe what Title IX is?
Yeah, so Title IX is a policy that was produced by the Obama administration, but it actually wasn't put in place, like the legalities of it weren't put in place.
Okay.
And it was written to protect, different, basically sexual identities, but they rolled in gender identity as well because they saw a necessity to protect transgender children. So, however, the Trump administration still repealed it.
Okay. I also read something about teachers putting green bands on kids to identify, and is that also that's a trans issue as well?
Yes. So transgender children in public schools in Minnesota, I believe, are being required to wear green armbands to identify them as transgender. You know, something similar to a scarlet letter or any form of othering a child, basically.
Absolutely. So it becomes the removal of Title IX, then it becomes a state's issue, right?
Mhm.
Instead of being these kids being protected federally. And what exactly does that mean?
When you remove federal protections for a class of people, you're essentially lowering them to a third-class citizenship. It's saying that we don't care about the children of your community, therefore we don't care about the future of your community, because as we all know, children are our future.
Right. And I guess like there's a lack of representation of like that lifestyle.
Absolutely. So far, it's been total misrepresentation up until about 2015. You can't find proper representation for trans people. We've effectively been erased. Basically, you know, there's this misbelief that transgender people are nuanced in modern day society,
Yeah.
when in fact we've always existed. We've been around since the birth of humanity in Mesopotamia. And you know, thanks to colonialism and archaic ideologies, we've effectively been erased or misrepresented. But you can find in indigenous communities from the Polynesian Islands from South America to North America, and even in Scandinavia, you can find literature of indigenous groups of people who did celebrate the transgender identity.
Wow. Yeah, that's. Can you explain a little bit about what erasure actually is for the community?
Yeah, so erasure is effectively when you take away the history and heritage of a group of people, so that people believe that you're some new existence, something to adapt to, when in fact you don't really need to adapt to us. We've been adapting to you for centuries.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing point. And like back to the kids, you know, I mean, living in that kind of an environment, you know, that stressful mental space, and how conflicting that can be. Like your culture is taken away, you know, like you have to choose between you and your family. I mean, there's a lot of harassment and there's a lot of abuse.
Absolutely. I mean, if you even just look at the most recent case of Mac Biggs, who is a trans male student in the state of Texas, and he just won the wrestling state championship for Texas, wrestling on the females team. But I read a recent interview with him where he was experiencing every time he would go in to wrestle, the crowd would be booing him, they'd be chanting faggot, calling him it, all of these things. And when they asked him, you know, how does that make you feel? He said it doesn't bother him. He's so used to it by that point. And that's not abnormal for trans children to be unaffected by humiliation because you're so used to it. It's normal.
It's so interesting that like constantly being in these kinds of like fight or flight mentalities, you know, dealing with so much persecution on like to your body, to your mind. You know, it makes me wonder as far as like the percentage of the trans community within military organizations, because you're set up for that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. So studies have proven and shown that trans-identified people are twice as likely over any other community of identities to serve in the military. And what's interesting about that is that you know, up until last year, transgender people could either be dishonorably discharged or we could be put in military prison for being transgender and serving in the military, even though we're twice as likely to be prone to serve in the military. So we put our lives on the line, we serve our country, we get out and we don't even you know, really get to enjoy the freedoms that we fought for. We gave basically people the freedom to hate us.
I think it brings to question the whole documentation process. You know, as a trans person, you can't leave the country, really.
No,
I mean,
absolutely. So, you know, I don't have a criminal record. I have an honorable service to the military, and it has been incredibly difficult for me to achieve my passport, even though I've had 2 prior passports. I had to supply additional court documentation. I had to supply 2 different doctor documentation. I had to supply DMV documentation, just a whole lot of documentation. And it's for my own country in order to leave. You know, I haven't seen my grandparents in Canada for almost 5 years.
Thank you so much for being here, Cash. I think that's all the time we have.
Okay.
I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Sweet Pea. Would you like some tea?
Okay.
Hold up. Did you see that body language? Right there. Nick might be saying he's okay with it, but his body sure isn't. It is essential to pay close attention to nonverbal communication. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable expressing their real feelings verbally, and that's exactly when you don't want to be having sex. Ask clarifying questions and make sure you know just how your partner feels. Hey, Sweet Pea. Would you like some tea?
Okay.
Try something else instead. I don't want to give you something you don't want.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'd like some cider.
Okay, I'll go grab it.
Ladies, gentlemen, and people outside of gender binary, the Press Secretary of the United States of America, Emery Krantz.
Oh yeah, that's good. Good afternoon. On behalf of the President and the Chief Strategist, I am proud to bring you the good news. All kinds of people, all over the world, doing amazing things across the globe for the Earth and for others. As an example, the ACLU is suing the city of Milwaukee for racially biased stop and frisk policies. Jesus. It seems that the American Civil Liberties Union and the ACLU of Wisconsin just filed the lawsuit against the city's police department, who routinely and purposefully stop and frisk Black and Latinx people with no cause. It's freaking terrible. And these violations are increasing in number. However, the good news is that these strong people recognize and resist racial profiling. They did something about it. And that's freaking fantastic. Hang in there, guys. Like a kitten hanging on a tree limb. Just basket of cats, maybe. Just, anyway. So, a new Canadian study, the first largest of its kind in Canada, shows that while Canada's transgender youth face significant physical and mental health issues, strong family, school, and community connections are helping many of them navigate these challenges. Well, of course they do. Thanks for catching up, Canada, truly. I mean it, sort of. And speaking of Canada, Citizenship and Immigration Canada has removed the requirement of proof of sex assignment surgery to support an applicant's request to change the sex designated on a citizenship certificate, like a passport. So feel free to travel about, brothers and sisters, and buy some puppies. We all know that our interactions with the news can be disheartening and discouraging and uncomfortable, maybe even a little gross at times. But there is good news out there to relieve the weight and harshness of the world's events. You're welcome, America. And now for the President of the United States.
Long live the chief diplomat, every day. Long live the chief.
My fellow Americans, aren't you glad we were able to early spring clean out that old rat-infested cabinet we had going up in this White House? I mean, come on. Now it's squeaky clean like that sexy old house cleaning cartoon man. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to make that guy head of my housing department. But seriously, as your new president, I do intend to continually address more current and critical grassroots issues, like the topics you viewed earlier on this show. It seems to me that during these unprecedented times, where each of us bear our own adversities with the world, I believe that it is crucial that we all seek to be more open about such nefarious affairs. Because issues such as rape, as archaic as it is still an epidemic in our country. In fact, we need to continue this conversation until the need for the word rape is no more. Furthermore, consent is not a bad consideration either. I mean, I pity the fool who doesn't talk it over with Ronda Rousey first, or anyone for that matter. It's common respect. And how about those pronoun puppets? Those cotton cuties made it so incredibly clear about how easy it is to respect someone else's pronoun wishes. Just do it. Finally, on a finishing note, it's not unusual for many of us to feel devastated by the enactments of our previous political leaders. I personally felt like the future of our country quickly mutated into a tragic reality of uncertainty for many of us. But what I am certain of is that I know I'm not alone in this fight to overcome our nation's prepubescent growth spurt. I think every human deserves more than just the concerns of our previous corrupt political leaders, or the trickle-down economical and environmental destruction that is being forced upon us by tyrannical